Megan Taylor Morrison, and you are tuned into the interview series for my 2021 Autumn Adventure Tour, a trip that celebrates entrepreneurship, the fall season, and the launch of my Business Mastermind program. From October 1st to the 19th, I'll be traveling from Maine to Georgia, interviewing badass small businesses along the way. Entrepreneurs will share about their experience, including tips to help you build your own dream company. And today I'm here with Michelle Castelloe. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Amazing, of Moxie Mercantile in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Michelle's community-centric shop features curated vintage and modern goods from a lot around the South, but all around the world. Is that right?
It is absolutely correct. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with you. I'm so excited to pick your brain. You have such a fascinating background, and I love what you've done with Moxie. So I'm very excited for this interview.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to answer some quick questions and see where it goes.
See where it goes. Totally. So before starting Moxie, you were a brand director at the retail giant Anthropologie. What was it like to make the transition from the corporate world to entrepreneurship?
Is heaven a good answer? So I had a very long career with them. I was with them for 14 years. And by the time I left after 14 years, I had grown my family from one child to four children, and my life was really busy. And I was traveling. And, when I was a lot younger, I always told myself success didn't equate to money, but somehow you get caught up in the sense that you have to make more and more and more and more. And that's how I found myself end up at this brand director role, was like, oh, more money. Sure. I'll take this job.
Mm,
Rather than when I remembered that I believed that, success didn't relate to money, that it related to happiness to me. That's when that light bulb went off in my head, that I'm not happy doing this, even though I'm making all this money. I
mhm.
want to be happy doing something that, I get to be with my children that I've, had, and that I'm trying to raise from the road while I was traveling everywhere. So ultimately that shift was like very welcomed in my lifestyle. It obviously causes some shift in financial security and things like that, but I didn't do it off the cuff. It actually took me about almost 3 years of working with open doors at Moxie before I left Anthropology.
So you grew it slowly as you were making the transition.
I did. And that allowed me to not have to pull a salary at all from my small business, because I was able to get it started while
Hmm.
I was working full time. I had an incredible staff. I still have them, actually. The people who helped me start it are still with me.
Wow.
Um, and I just started really slow. I started with really low expectations and just creating a community space through retail.
Yes. I like to say that there are bridge builders and boat burners, and it sounds like you are the bridge builder. So rather than saying, forget it, I'm leaving anthropology and going full time into my business, you really built the bridge slowly, methodically, with intentions to make that transition easier for you.
Yeah, I think I've worked with a life coach since before leaving Anthropology. And my biggest fear was, living up to not having enough money.
Mm,
Right. And, I do have four kids. It's expensive to have four children. Um, but I grew comfortable in the space that money wasn't going to make me happy, the belief that I grew up with, and that, yes, it makes things easier, but I had to get over that fear in order to leave. I
mm,
had to actually work through that process and be like, it's okay to have less money when you have more happiness,
yeah.
so it was a process for me. And I think while I was also building the business over that time, and not everybody has that luxury of being able to run a tangent business and work a full-time job with four children, I have this capacity for chaos that I think a lot of entrepreneurs have. And so it was fine for me to do that for a while. Uh,
Mm,
and then, yeah, that bridge really helped me get to a place where then I could start, planning to leave appropriately. And, unbeknownst to me, the company came to me with another. So in 2017, they had a shift. And then in 18, they had a shift. And then in 19, they had another shift where it was a manpower. They were always manpower reductions.
mm.
And so they came to me, and it was, something I had been silently begging for, to give me a little bit of security to leave, but also help push me out of that, financial security blanket that I was in.
Yeah. I was going to ask if there was some number that you wanted to hit before you left anthropology, or did you have a way to know when you would pull the trigger?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when I first started Moxie, the building that I was in, I was renting from the owner, but I was renting with a contract to buy it in 2017.
Mm.
So I, rented it for straight 2 years, and I thought initially that I would jump in 2017 as soon as I bought it, because that was my new security blanket. My new retirement fund was being able to buy this piece of real estate.
Mhm.
Um, and so, but when it came like I closed on the property 3 months after I got a big promotion. So it was very, that whole money struggle in my brain was like, wait, well, maybe I can do this longer,
Mm.
and so it wasn't great for my psyche, for my family, for me to keep doing it necessarily, but I was still in that fear spot, even though I had reached that milestone of buying the building.
Yes.
That was my milestone. That was my jumping off point. And, my discussions with my husband and my family, we were going to be fine if I could get that building bought and under my belt as my next, retirement issue.
Mm.
But I ultimately still was scared. So I lasted another year and a half before I actually took the leap. So,
Yeah. If you had a piece of advice for that version of yourself back then,
right.
what would it be?
Um, for me, it was conquering the fear, and fear is all internal. Fear is not an external implication on our psyche. It is what we do to ourselves, and to to balance the fear with the knowledge that you're capable is probably my biggest. And I work with small businesses as well through a different version of my business called Moxie Huddle, where I work with these creatives that just have a fear of pricing strategies and have a fear of getting what they're worth. And so because I went through this experience, maybe what I was worth was my big salary, but my big salary was taking away from my worth as a human being.
Mm.
I was just not happy. And I
Yeah.
wasn't doing a job that felt like it was giving back to the community or giving back to, a better good around us. And
Yes.
so I think, my biggest piece of advice would be like, don't let fear make your decisions for you.
Mm. One of the reasons I love entrepreneurship is that owning a business allows you to take a stand for something. And it seems like Moxie really does that in so many ways. What purpose are you having Moxie serve?
There's multiples for sure. You know, our biggest purpose is just community driven. We I have 3 permanent locations right now with a 4th version coming, and each one where I know it's like crazy. I'm in the middle of it right now. This is a welcome break from doing some construction work, but each one works with its local community. So they're surrounding Charlotte. My first one's in Plaza Midwood, and I have incredible ties to local charities here and local women who run different fundraising events and things like that. And I'm always on board with giving back to them. And then it kind of shifts month to month what we're focusing on. So October will be Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's touched our Moxie family. It's touched my clients, and my people who I've become friends with. So for the past 3 or 4 years now, we've done a candle with a local maker. So I'm giving back directly to a local maker, and then we sell the candle, and $20 of the candle goes back to Hattie's Heroes, which is a local chapter of Susan G. Komen. So it's, everything is sort of Moxie doesn't profit off of it other than I know I'm doing good, and that good is a better profit to me than financial profit. Like it's better for my family to see me in this place of giving and community than a place of taking and sort of, doing something that doesn't make me happy.
Yes.
There's not, June is Pride, and so we did a huge donation to Transcend Charlotte, which, there's just a group of people that aren't represented well in Charlotte or in the nation. It's just sort of sad. And so anything we can do to help the underserved and the undersupported groups is sort of where we focus.
Mm.
Remember, we're doing a dog event with North Mac Animal Rescue. So it's just sort of, it's like anything that's close to my heart gets a little attention.
Yeah, I love that. I love giving yourself permission to have your finger in many really
Yeah.
valuable pots.
Yep.
I
Yep.
can hear a question coming in from our soon to be audience around, yes, I want my business to give back and I have to pay my bills, I have to make money.
Right.
How did you decide when to start those philanthropic
I
endeavors?
mean, I started off the bat with
Hmm.
philanthropic efforts. I have not paid for advertising since day one. The only advertising that I do is through a philanthropic effort. So
Mm.
if I get to give back to a nonprofit and my logo goes on their paperwork or on their thing, that was the only way I chose to advertise. So that was part of my strategy in the first place.
Beautiful.
And then it came through brands that give back. So I carry a number. I mean, I probably should sit down and write down all of the brands that I carry that have a give back built into their purchase. So I know if I'm buying something from them wholesale and retailing it, that wholesale purchase is giving back. So I've already done a give back before somebody even purchased something from me.
Mm.
And so it's sort of, I didn't realize how important that was until I set foot in my actual physical space, knowing that I wasn't going to pay for advertising through I'm not going to pay for a magazine spread. I'm not going to pay for, everything that I've done has been because I've wanted to be a part of something. And
Yes.
so that resonated with me as soon as I realized they were I'm going to tell you, 7 years ago, when I started this journey, I didn't realize how many brands were doing great things because it wasn't part of the culture I was in. So I was just, I was working for somebody else. And so when I realized I could buy brands that are doing great things and sell them at the reasonable margin to pay my bills,
Mm.
but then I could also give back on top of it. So it was a very, um, just a happenstance, I would say, of goodness that came out of me understanding this whole other world that existed.
Yeah, so I hear two things. One is be intimate with your numbers, know how
Yeah.
much you're selling things for, what the return is,
Yes.
know those numbers. And the second thing is make sure your marketing efforts really align with your values and who you are, because there's no right way to do business. And if you want your only marketing to be through philanthropic efforts, it is 100% possible.
It is. It's slower,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
definitely slower, but it's choosing those people that also care about philanthropy and about community services and events that help each other. So that's
Yes.
that's my customer base, is people who actually care. I mean, people are going to come in that don't care. I get it. That's not, but I want people to know that they can buy gifts that are
Mhm.
also doing great things around the world, around the community, helping independent artists. And so they're not just buying a generic gift from a big box store that was made without intention.
Yeah.
So it was an organic process going through that whole evolution of what Moxie was,
Mm.
starting from knowing what I didn't want to do.
Yes. So I know that everything you stock in your store is carefully curated. Tell me about one product that you feel super excited about right now and why.
Well, I mean, there's so much right now. It's kind of ridiculous. So we have carried, one thing that we do as a brand is sort of let people know that don't expect to see this every single time you come,
Mhm.
because I like to move and shift through different types of product, and we're going to evolve with trends and community needs and desires. We're also going to carry some staples, but expect those staples to sort of evolutionize through the process of me owning this business. And so we carry one candle line called Linnea that I found while working for Anthropology. I found it at this point, back then it was 7 years ago. So at this point, it's 13 or 14 years ago. I bought one of their candles and I coveted it. I never burned it. I held on to it forever. And I just said, I can't believe nobody in Charlotte offers this candle. I can't wait to open a store. And this is the line I want to carry. So
Mm.
from day one, Linnea has been my number one candle line. And they're also a women-owned brand. They also give back. So sort of, that's the one product I'm always excited about, because they have, grown their business alongside us. They're obviously much more prominent in their industry than I am in my little gift industry here in Charlotte. But that's the one I'm always excited about. Like, we get so excited for their seasonal scents. We get excited for their holiday scents. They're incredible. And now the community knows about them. So it's like we sell a lot of their candles because they know how much I love them. But recently, because I've been expanding into apparel more, I've been searching for brands that are doing all the things that I love. They're giving back, they're women owned, they're not hurting our environment in their process, which is really hard to find brands that actually aren't hurting us. And so I'm super excited about a new brand that I picked up. Gosh, when did I start carrying them? Maybe last spring. It's called Ophelia and Indigo. And they are based in Brooklyn. They're two women from England, and they have all of their cotton dresses. There's no polyester in them. All of their clothing is 100% cotton. It's all hand printed in India. They give back to the Pajama Project with their scraps of all of their cuttings. So, and they're just two wonderful women. And so that's probably my most exciting, because I get to expand their I have their entire line coming to Betty by Moxie when I open that store. And so I'm just so excited to know that there's other brands out there that are just like me.
Yes.
In a way, they're obviously the makers. I'm their portal, right, to get it out to the world. But
yes,
it's so great to find these brands. So they're probably my most exciting apparel line right now.
Nice. And you keep referencing these other locations that you have. I think that's one thing that's really cool about your business. And in my business as a business coach, I often talk with people about scaling. So you have 2 more locations now, and you said you're opening a third. Is that correct?
So I have 3 Moxie Mercantiles. One in Charlotte, one in Davidson that opened in 2018, and then one in Matthews that just opened this past May. They're all little like quaint downtown type areas. That's my strategy. And then I'm opening Betty by Moxie. It's also in Plaza Midwood, sort of diagonally from my original store, from what I would call my flagship, but it's a teeny little space. So it's like, most people equate flagships to big giant stores. But my building that I put Moxie in is a 2-story, 1,700 square foot building, and it's old. And my selling square footage in that space that's really usable is only roughly between 800 and 900 square feet. Because the upstairs, I don't want people walking up and down the old stairs. There's a lot of issues that come with that.
Yeah.
So Betty is going across the street into a location that came available, and I just wanted to take the opportunity that was presented to me because the timing wasn't perfect. Like, by no means opening a store in May did I intend to open another one right in October, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity. So it is going to pull out all of the apparel and kids that's currently in Moxie Mercantile and Plaza Midwood and expand it. We don't have another kids or women's clothing shop in our community. And so we live 20 minutes from a mall. We don't live in a space where everything is accessible, but everything is accessible, if that makes sense. So Betty is just another concept, but it's still a Moxie Mercantile, but logistically you can't call it the same thing and have it across the street from each other. Yeah. So, Google's not going to understand when you say go to Moxie Mercantile as opposed to go to Betty by Moxie. It'll direct you to the right place. So it's just an expansion because my Matthews location is really big, and I was able to expand apparel there, and I know it's working. And so it'll still feel like a Moxie. It's just going to have a very big expanded apparel and kids section.
You keep dropping the best wisdom bombs, so I just want to underscore them as we go. So one is notice what's working and build off of that. Do not beat a dead horse in business.
Right.
And then the second piece was sometimes the timing doesn't make sense, but if you feel in your gut that it is the right decision, trust yourself. That's what I hear.
Yourself and make it work. By no means am I in a non-stress financial state right now with opening a second store 5 months after opening the other one. It's stressful, right? And I've made choices for myself to do a lot of the work in Betty because I have a lot of pride in it, and I love doing some woodworking stuff, and nobody's going to hire me to do it. So why don't I do it for myself?
Yeah.
And learning new things is really exciting. And this has just been an opportunity for me to both learn some things. I never knew I could do drywall corners before, but now I can. And then also, just taking the opportunity when it was presented and knowing it's the right thing. I know that I also did a poll amongst my community and asked them, if I were to expand, what categories would you want to see come to Plaza Midwood?
Yeah.
And so I'm not going off of just a hunch. I did some research and I asked all the right questions, and I'm incorporating local book authors, local artists. Like there's still so much local happening with it that still feels authentic to Moxie. It's just with a different representation of product.
Yes. And I'll underscore from what you just said, talk to your customers, be
Oh,
intimate with them,
absolutely.
figure out what they want. Yeah. So what are to you the most important lessons you've learned about scaling a business?
Um, Intellectual property is real. Don't be offended when people come and look at all you've curated and try and copy you. You just need to keep moving forward and let them stay 2 steps behind because they're copying. That's been a hard lesson to learn because I'm a very personal person and I'm a very open book, as you can see. I've let people come into my world that then have taken advantage of my knowledge. And so I've had to break that cycle of being hurt by it. And just be prideful that I've had something that somebody wants to copy or somebody wants to follow, right? It's not the easiest transition in your brain when you take so much pride in the work that you do, but it's important to continue to be the leader that they're following instead of revert back to their behaviors of following and chasing. So that's not been an easy lesson, and it's caused some friendships to go awry, that I thought were real friendships, but I've learned some really great boundaries in doing small business, and it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay not to, it's okay to be hurt by things, but not to hold those things so dear to your heart that you can't move forward. And that's a kind of a strange response, I guess, or answer, but it's probably the most poignant because I am an open book and I'm so trusting that I never thought anything of the way I curated my space or the way I chose my products until other people started trying to do it the same way. And, my husband always tells me they'll never be Moxie because they're not you. So keep moving forward and just keep letting them try to copy you and the community will understand, and just keep going. Yeah. So, when you know that something is dear to your heart and you've taken the time to curate your choices and your selection and find the right products that fit your brand, just keep going and don't look at the others that are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's inevitable. When you are a change maker, when you are doing something new, when you do something well, people will copy it. It's just a fact of business. Right. And learning to set those boundaries, try not to take things personally, but then sometimes it is so near and dear to you that you got to feel your feelings, got to process it, lessons learned, and then move on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm just going to keep standing firm. And, I did a lot of reflection about those behaviors of people that I've let in. And I just keep standing firm. And like, I do want to be flattered that people want to copy me. Right. Yeah. Like it can be a good feeling, even if it feels like a little bit of somebody not being loyal to your friendship or respecting your original or your boundaries that you didn't explain first. Right. Like my fault for not explaining my boundary. I take responsibility to it, but I am so grateful for learning that boundary that like, it's amazing to know that I have that boundary now.
Yes. Yes. Give us an example of a mistake that you made while scaling and what you learned from it.
Oh boy. I think I'm still growing and making mistakes every single day. So like, maybe, that might have to be I might have to come back to that one because there's some that's really fresh in my mind, but I need to find the right way to explain them.
Yes. Yes. Let's skip. And then if it hits you, the inspiration hits you a little bit later on, we'll come back. You mentioned that some of the people that you started your business with back in 2015 are still there. Yeah. What's your secret to retention? Because we all know that training new employees takes time, money. How do you keep them?
That might be one of, going back to the mistake question that it had to do with employee retention question. But so my 2 girls, they're women, they're not girls, women have become, one of them I've actually known for almost 20 years. And she was part of my focus group at the very beginning. And She was working a big corporate job, wasn't happy. And she came to me after the focus group and she said, I don't know how I'm going to be a part of this because I have this job, but I want to be a part of Moxie. I just know I want to be a part. And I was like, great, we'll figure it out. Right. Like, I have no clue how to do this yet either. So we'll figure it out. And the other one was a mutual friend that we had so many connections and had never met. And she came to me actually looking for other opportunities. And I was like, so what do you what do you know about retail? She's like, well, not a ton, but I'm a rep. And so I understand this side of it. And I brought her, and her name's Amy, and I brought Heather together for this awkward little meeting one day. And I was like, are you guys in for this? Are you ready? And they're like, we're ready. So I'm super respectful of hours that they work, and my expectations and agreements with them are that they can have whatever time off they want. If I can make sure the schedule is covered, let's be flexible with it, right? Like, they're moms, they've got things to do. They've got baseball games and football games and just so many things that I knew I felt constraint with for asking for time off when I worked in a corporate job. So I wanted to release that constraint both for myself, but both for anybody who worked for me. So, I think because I give them so much autonomy, and I was a new brand that they've built with me along the way, that they have their hearts in it just as deep as I do, right? Yeah. They see me working just as hard. I'm not a leader that is a step back, you do the work, and I'm going to reap the reward person at all.
Yeah, you're in there doing drywall.
I mean, and I love it. So it's like, it's filling my bucket. And I think that, I just had my first all employee meeting the other day, and, they have been with me we're going on almost 6 years. October will be 6 years. So they have been with me for 6 years. Another employee has been with me for 3, another for 2, and then on and off. I had an employee who worked for me one day a week, whose daughter now works for me because she loved it so much, wasn't capable of doing more. And now her daughter works in my Davidson location. It's just, I think because it's professional family, Amy, Heather, and I couldn't function without them, and they know how much I appreciate them, and I wouldn't be able to grow without a good team. And so, we've slowly brought other people on as managers now. I have a manager in every location. I have an assistant manager in one location that helps Heather. Her name's also Amy, but helps Heather so that Heather can support me more. I mean, because I think because it's all heart, the whole job is heart, that they love it and they stick around with it. And they know, the employees that have moved on know they're not the right fit because they don't feel the same heart that I do. And that's okay. I haven't had a lot that have moved on for any other reason other than going to school or, moving I've had some move to other cities, so they can't obviously do the job. But retention for me is just about being really, really open book and really honest. Honesty is so important. So they see my struggles, they see my joys, and they get to celebrate with both of them. So I haven't asked them directly, what's made you stay for 6 years, right? But I think we have a lot of fun. We've become so close as friends and family, and they've learned a lot from me and I've learned a lot from them. And it's, mutually beneficial for all of us.
So creating loyalty through transparency, values-driven business, flexibility, and, just really looking for the people whose heart is in the work, like those who actually share those values with you.
Yeah. I mean, retail isn't the most lucrative career for any of us, right? Like, even top retail isn't the most lucrative career. They know how little I make, but they know how much I love it. So it's okay. And, we do try where we can in each community, we try to pay a living wage for anybody who's, no longer dependent on family members for anything. So it's an expensive job as a small business owner to honor that, but it's important to me.
Yeah, I like to say that if your values are in your business, it's a sustainable business.
Right.
Values, and you got to make money, obviously, right? But it's like we really choose, and I think it can be easy to chase after the money, like you said at the beginning of the conversation. But what really makes our lives beautiful is creating this ecosystem where we get to do business in the way that feels really fucking good,
Yeah.
and like support people we care about, and it's an ecosystem, right? It's
Yep.
not a standalone way to bring in some cash.
Oh, absolutely. It is not. It is I get more joy out of the give back process of my business than I get out of my little paycheck.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've obviously opted to take a smaller paycheck so that I could grow the brand,
Yeah.
right? Like this is my strategy. Somebody could just be running Moxie as is and take a really great paycheck with one store and just be that person. I think because my background was so busy and big, I was managing a lot of business and a lot of money, that one store wasn't challenging enough for me.
Hmm.
Uh, Going on four, I'm challenged. It's good. I'm
Nice.
learning my limits. Um, I'm learning to, delegate and ask for help in areas that are not proficient for me. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think that as a small business owner, your goal isn't always just to make money.
Yes.
And I think it's a really valuable for my kid lesson for my kids to see their mom like working really hard and being okay with not like, financially being able to go buy a new car every year if I want to, or, those things. I guess that doesn't really work with my values anyway, as like, you know, I like to drive my car. We still have the first minivan that we bought when my daughter, who's now going to be 17, bought
Nice.
it when she was new. We're still driving that. So,
Nice.
you know, it's
And
great.
you've just said a key word for all entrepreneurs: delegation.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
I'm
my
still learning.
gosh.
Yeah.
What are the best practices that you use for delegation?
Um, Recognizing my limits first. When I'm a to-do lister in my head. I'm
Mhm.
not a to-do lister on paper. And I have 3 employees that love to support me with to-do lists on paper. And I love the cross-off portion.
Mhm.
But if I can get out of my head, they can actually go, well, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. Because there's
Mm.
all things that I'm holding on to that need to be done by me.
Mhm.
And I know there's a lot of things that other people can do, but if I don't get them out, nobody can support me.
Mhm.
So, learning my boundaries with, so giving back. So just as an example, I was trying to manage it all myself. All of the donation requests that are emailing to me, or people stopping in all 3 locations asking for a donation from Moxie for something. So I actually hired an external person to handle it all. She gets the email, she calls each store, she says, hey, get this product ready for this person to come pick up. I don't even look at it. I gave her a budget and I just said, please take it. These are your certain things that I don't want you to say yes to for
Mhm.
certain, reasons, for personal reasons or whatever. But anything else that you see fits my brand, please offer a donation. And here's your budget. When your budget's out, you just say, sorry, I have no budget left.
Yeah.
So I was able to delegate those things that, while they're super important to me, I didn't need to hold on so closely to and manage
Mhm.
every aspect of it. Because ultimately it wasn't going to get done because my list was too long, and I don't need somebody asking for my sign off on everything.
Yes.
So, it's just sort of, I'm still working at delegation. I do believe in autonomy. And so I really think that I've got people that work for me that I fully trust. And should they make a mistake, I'll help them through it,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to punish them for it. It's going to be a learning lesson for all of us when these mistakes come up. And so, I think that right now autonomy is my form of delegation, like
Mhm.
letting people take action and make mistakes or do things that, maybe I wouldn't have thought of, and it's an awesome solution. So why not open up your mind to other ways things can get done?
Yes. Final question for you.
Okay.
What is one system, tool, or philosophy that's made a huge difference for you in business?
Um, I think we actually already touched on it. I think the philosophy that you can do good, give back to your community, be an active part of social, well-being, and still make money and survive. and still
Mm.
have a profitable business.
Yeah.
Um, obviously I'm not a nonprofit. I'm for profit, but I still give back, and not everything that gives back has to be a nonprofit. So there's like a little mystery around some of that stuff. So how do you engage in these brands and find them? And then also make sure that they meet your aesthetic of your brand and everything else. But I think the philosophy that it doesn't have to be the way our parents did retail. It doesn't have to be the newspaper, magazine, advertisement that you pay for to gain your business support. And the loyalty of your customers does not come from that advertisement. It comes from them knowing your heart and your intention. And I mean, I've had customers. I now have a new employee whose mom has been my customer since literally the first week we opened. And it's your customers become your family, and you become so connected with the community, which as always is what I was missing from my big corporate job.
Mm.
And so I just think that it can be done if you're doing it with like these incredible intentions to fulfill yourself. You're gonna meet your needs of your business too. Whatever your business is, it might be slower than you anticipated. I mean, it might be, I'm not out there trying to get Instagram followers constantly. I'm not, I'm building it very slowly and organically. I just want them to know like the authenticity of who we are.
Beautiful. Michelle, thank you so much for all of these fabulous stories, tips, the sharing of who you are as a businesswoman. It's really fun to get to know you, and I'm sure that our viewers will take a lot for their own businesses.
I
Thank you.
hope so. I hope so. I hope if anything they know that, don't let fear stop them.